I was staring at my phone as it vibrated for the 27th time this month. Unknown number, but I knew exactly who it was. Amanda, my ex-wife. The woman who betrayed me 5 years ago. I have rebuilt my life here in Seattle with a stable job, new friends, and even a promising relationship on the horizon. But my past keeps trying to drag me back in. Refusing to let go of what I so decisively ended. The memories of what happened still burn, but I have moved on. She has not. Therefore, khi tôi kể cho bạn câu chuyện về cách tôi đã hoàn toàn biến mất khỏi cuộc đời vợ mình, hãy cho tôi biết bạn đang xem từ đâu và nhấn subscribe nếu bạn đã từng phải đưa ra quyết định khó khăn để bảo vệ trái tim mình. My name is Jeremy, and I was 32 years old when my life in Boston completely changed. Before meeting Amanda, I led a pretty standard life as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company. I had my routines, my small group of close friends, and dreams of someday advancing in my career. Nothing extraordinary, but I was content. Everything changed on that crisp autumn morning in 2016. I was at my favorite coffee shop, laptop open, working remotely for the day. The place was packed, and this beautiful woman asked if she could share my table. That woman was Amanda. She wore a tailored business suit, had these striking blue eyes, and carried herself with a confidence that immediately drew me in. We started talking, and I learned she worked in finance, specifically investment banking. Her intelligence was obvious from the first conversation. Our first date was at this little Italian restaurant in North End. I remember being nervous, changing my outfit 3 times before meeting her. The chemistry between us was undeniable. We shared the same taste in indie films, both loved jazz music, and had the same sarcastic sense of humor. The conversation flowed naturally for hours, until the restaurant staff started giving us hints that they wanted to close. Things progressed quickly after that. We saw each other almost every weekend, then started spending weeknights together too. 8 months into dating, we decided to move in together. Her lease was ending, and it seemed like the perfect next step. Living together felt surprisingly easy. Our routines complemented each other, and even our occasional disagreements were resolved with respectful communication. 11 months into living together, I took her to Cape Cod for a weekend getaway. We walked along the beach under the stars, and with the waves crashing in the background, I got down on one knee. The ring was not extravagant, but I had saved for months to buy something special. Her eyes welled up with tears as she said yes. That night remains one of the happiest memories of my life. We had a small wedding 6 months later. Just close family and friends at a rustic venue outside the city. Amanda looked stunning in her simple white dress, and when we exchanged vows, I truly believed we would be together forever. The celebration was intimate and joyful, exactly what we had wanted. After the honeymoon in Mexico, we settled into married life. We bought our first house in a suburb outside Boston. Nothing fancy, but it was ours, with a small yard and enough space for the family we hoped to start. We opened a savings account specifically for having kids in the future. We painted rooms, bought furniture, and created what I thought was our forever home. My career was taking off too. I got promoted to senior software engineer, which came with a substantial salary increase. Amanda celebrated my success, and I supported her as she climbed the corporate ladder at her financial firm. From the outside, we looked like the perfect couple building a perfect life. The first unusual sign appeared about 2 years into our marriage. Amanda started going on weekend business trips more frequently. Her company was expanding, she explained, and she needed to meet with clients in New York and Chicago. I had no reason not to believe her. She would call at night from her hotel room telling me about her day and how much she missed me. Then came the secret phone calls. Several times I walked into a room to find her quickly ending a conversation or lowering her voice. When I asked who she was talking to, the answer was always a colleague or her mother. Sometimes I would notice her deleting text messages as soon as she read them. Again, nothing concrete to worry about, but enough to create a sense of unease. Her attitude toward me began changing too. The affectionate touches became less frequent. Date nights were often canceled due to work emergencies. When we did spend time together, she seemed distant, checking her phone constantly. When I expressed concern, she blamed stress at work and assured me everything was fine. All of these could be explained away logically. Careers get demanding. People get busy. Relationships go through phases. I told myself these things repeatedly, trying to silence the growing discomfort in my gut. The moment that truly triggered my suspicion happened at a company party I attended with Amanda. One of her coworkers, slightly drunk, mentioned someone named James and how he and Amanda made such a great team on their recent project. The problem was, Amanda had never mentioned working with anyone named James. When I asked about him later that night, she became defensive, claiming he was a new team member and not worth mentioning. Her explanation made sense, but her nervousness did not. My suspicions grew stronger and I began looking for concrete evidence. It started with small investigations. One night, while Amanda was showering, I checked her purse and found hotel receipts from dates when she had told me she was staying at her friend Tina's place. Another time, I discovered a second email account on her laptop that she had never mentioned, though I could not access it without the password. Our joint credit card statements revealed unusual patterns too. Dinners for two at expensive restaurants on evenings when she was supposedly working late. Gifts purchased from jewelry stores that I had never received. Weekend charges from hotels in Boston, our own city, made no sense for business trips. The first time I confronted her, I tried to be calm. I asked about the discrepancies in her stories, the unexplained expenses, the growing distance between us. Amanda reacted with indignation. She accused me of spying on her and violating her privacy. She turned the entire conversation around making me feel like I was the problem for not trusting her. She stormed out that night, claiming she needed space and would stay at Tina's. I called Tina an hour later, only to learn that Amanda had not contacted her at all. That night alone in our bed, I made a decision that would change everything. I hired a private investigator. It cost a significant amount from my personal savings, but I needed to know the truth, whatever it might be. I could not continue living with the gnawing uncertainty. 2 weeks later, the investigator delivered what I had feared, but somehow expected. Clear photographs of Amanda with a tall, well-dressed man entering and exiting various hotels. Security footage from a restaurant, showing them holding hands, kissing. His name was indeed James, a senior partner at her firm. According to the investigator, their affair had been going on for at least 18 months, possibly longer. The final piece of evidence was the most damning. The investigator had managed to access their communication. Explicit text messages. Plans for weekend getaways. Discussions about a future together. One particular message from Amanda to James read, "Just a matter of time before I can leave. Need to figure out the finances first." When I saw all the evidence laid out before me, something inside me broke. I spent that entire night sitting on our living room floor, surrounded by photographs and printouts, trying to make sense of the last 3 years of my life. Had any of it been real, every memory was now tainted, every sweet moment called into question. I could not eat. I could not sleep. I could not sleep. Had any of it been real? Every memory was now tainted. Every sweet moment. I called in sick to work and spent the day in a daze, alternating between numbing shock and searing pain. Amanda had been away at another supposed business trip and was not answering my calls. I later learned she was with James at a resort in Vermont. I spent those 3 days alone, processing everything, moving through stages of grief and rage. By the time she returned, I had cried all my tears and reached a cold, clear state of resolve. She walked through the door with her suitcase, smiling as if nothing was wrong. I sat her down at the kitchen table where I had arranged all the evidence. Photographs, hotel receipts, credit card statements, printed messages. Her smile disappeared as her eyes moved from one piece to another. The color drained from her face. "What is this?" she whispered, though she clearly knew. "I think you know exactly what this is," I replied, my voice steadier than I had expected. At first, she tried denying it. Then, she attempted to minimize it. It was just physical. It meant nothing. When she realized neither approach was working, she broke down. Tears flowed as she confessed everything. She and James had started as just colleagues, then friends, then more. She claimed she had not meant for it to happen, that she had been caught up in emotions she could not control. "I still love you, Jeremy," she sobbed. "I made a terrible mistake. We can work through this." Couples survive affairs all the time. Then came the promises. She would cut all contact with James. She would change jobs. We could go to counseling. She would spend the rest of her life making it up to me. She begged for another chance, pleading that everyone deserves forgiveness for one mistake. But as she spoke, I discovered something that made everything even worse. In her desperate confessions, Amanda revealed that she and James had actually been planning to start a new life together. They had discussed her divorcing me, but only after they had figured out how to maximize what she could take from our joint accounts and assets. The affair was bad enough, but this calculated betrayal cut even deeper. I sat silently as she continued pleading her case, promising changes and a better future. But in my mind, a different plan was already forming. I did not respond to Amanda's tears or promises that night. I simply told her I needed time to think that decisions like this could not be made in the heat of the moment. She seemed relieved, interpreting my calm demeanor as a sign that reconciliation might be possible. She had no idea what was actually going through my mind. The next morning, I called in sick to work again and met with a divorce attorney while Amanda was at her office. The lawyer was straightforward about my options. Given the evidence of infidelity, I was in a strong position. He advised me on how to protect my assets and what steps to take next. I paid his retainer fee from my personal account that Amanda had no access to. That same afternoon, I spoke with my bank and removed half the money from our joint accounts, which I was legally entitled to do. I opened a new account at a different bank entirely. I contacted our credit card companies and removed myself as a joint holder, protecting myself from any future charges she might make. Over the next 2 weeks, I pretended to be considering reconciliation. I went through the motions of listening to Amanda's plans for rebuilding trust. I even agreed to a single counseling session, though my mind was already made up. This performance served a purpose. It gave me time to execute my exit strategy without raising suspicion. I quietly reached out to contacts in my industry and secured a new position at a tech company in Seattle. The offer came quickly, partly due to my impressive portfolio, and partly due to a former colleague who now worked there. I negotiated a start date 3 weeks out, giving me enough time to prepare. I found an apartment in Seattle through a virtual tour. Nothing special, just a one-bedroom place that would serve as my landing spot in my new city. I paid the security deposit and first month's rent from my new separate account. Meanwhile, I began the process of carefully removing important items from our house. Nothing obvious that would raise Amanda's suspicions. Just personal documents, family heirlooms, irreplaceable photos, and items of sentimental value. I stored them temporarily at my friend David's garage, the only person I had confided in about my plan. David had been through his own divorce years earlier and understood the need for discretion. Amanda noticed none of this. She was so focused on convincing me to forgive her that she failed to see I was already halfway gone. She continued her performance of the remorseful wife, cooking my favorite meals, suggesting future vacations we could take to reconnect, all while I knew she was still in contact with James. My private investigator confirmed they were still meeting, though less frequently, apparently working out their own contingency plans. I chose my departure date strategically. Amanda had a business trip scheduled for a weekend in October. Through my investigator, I confirmed this was actually a weekend with James at a cabin in the Berkshires. This gave me a clear 48-hour window to disappear completely. The day Amanda left, I put my plan into action. A professional moving company arrived, one I had researched, that specialized in quick, efficient moves. They loaded the items I had marked, primarily my clothes, my office equipment, and a few pieces of furniture that were undisputedly mine. By noon, everything I wanted was packed into their truck, heading for a storage facility in Seattle. I spent the afternoon meticulously cleaning the house, removing every trace of myself. I deleted my user profiles from the home entertainment systems. I cleared my browsing history from our shared computer. I even removed my soaps and shampoos from the bathroom. On the kitchen table, I left 3 items: my house key, my wedding ring, and an envelope containing divorce papers my lawyer had prepared. No note. No explanation. The papers would tell her everything she needed to know. Before leaving, I took one last walk through the home we had shared, the life we had built. Despite everything, there was a moment of sadness. Not regret, just acknowledgement of what had been lost and what could have been. That evening I boarded a flight to Seattle. As the plane took off, I turned off my old phone for the last time. I had already set up a new number on a new device that would be waiting for me in my new city. I deleted all my social media accounts rather than just deactivating them. Email addresses were abandoned in favor of new ones. I wanted no digital trail that could lead Amanda to me. The next day, my friend David described Amanda's return to me over our new secure email accounts. She had arrived home Sunday evening calling out my name as she entered the house. The silence that greeted her was her first indication that something was wrong. She moved from room to room, her confusion turning to panic as she noticed my missing possessions. When she found the divorce papers and ring, she broke down. What followed was a flurry of desperate attempts to contact me. Calls to my now disconnected number. Emails that would never be read. She reached out to mutual friends who either did not know my whereabouts or had been instructed not to share any information. She even contacted my parents, who truthfully told her they did not know where I had gone. She tried accessing our financial accounts only to discover the changes I had made. When she contacted my workplace, she learned I had resigned 2 weeks earlier. Every avenue led to a dead end. According to David, her final desperate move was reaching out to James for support, only to discover he had gotten cold feet about their future together. Once he realized she would not be bringing any financial assets into their relationship. The house of cards she had built collapsed completely. Meanwhile, I was starting my new life, 3,000 miles away, leaving no breadcrumbs for her to follow. My first weeks in Seattle were both liberating and challenging. My new apartment was sparsely furnished, just the essentials that had arrived from the moving company. The rainy Pacific Northwest weather matched my mood as I adjusted to the reality of what my life had become. But beneath the occasional melancholy was an undeniable sense of freedom. My new job provided structure and purpose. The tech company culture was welcoming, and no one knew my history. I was just the new software engineer from Boston with impressive credentials. I threw myself into work, volunteering for projects and putting in extra hours. It was partly to establish myself professionally, but also to keep my mind occupied during those early days. Healing did not come immediately. Despite the clean break, I carried emotional wounds that needed attention. After a month of struggling alone, I found a therapist who specialized in betrayal trauma. Our weekly sessions became an anchor as I processed the grief, anger, and lingering questions about how I could have missed the signs for so long. I also joined a support group for divorced men. The stories shared in that circle showed me I was not alone, that others had walked similar paths and found their way to peace. The camaraderie provided comfort on difficult days, especially around holidays and what would have been our anniversary. Gradually, I built a new social circle. A coworker invited me to join a hiking group that explored the beautiful Washington wilderness on weekends. I started taking cooking classes at a local community center, something I had always wanted to do but never made time for in my previous life. I volunteered at a coding boot camp, teaching programming basics to career changers. The person I was becoming felt more authentic than the man I had been in my marriage. Without realizing it, I had dimmed parts of myself to fit into the relationship with Amanda. Now those aspects of my personality re-emerged and flourished. Dating again took longer. For the first 2 years in Seattle, I focused on building friendships and healing. The thought of being vulnerable with someone romantically felt overwhelming. When I finally did start dating, it was casual and with clear boundaries. I was open about being divorced, but kept the details private until I knew someone well enough to share that story. Then I met Stephanie at a charity event organized by my company. She was a graphic designer with a quick wit and an easy laugh. Our connection developed slowly, built on genuine friendship first. When I eventually told her the full story of my marriage and departure, her response was compassionate without pity. She understood why I had made such a clean break and never judged me for it. For 5 years I lived my new life with no contact from my past. The divorce had finalized without Amanda and me ever speaking directly. All communication happened through lawyers. She contested nothing. Perhaps understanding. She had no ground to stand on with the evidence I possessed. Occasionally, I would hear updates through mutual friends who remained in my life. I learned she and James had broken up completely, that she had moved to Chicago for a fresh start, that she had tried reaching out to David multiple times to find me. Then last month the past came knocking in a way I had not anticipated. I received an email from a former colleague, congratulating me on my recent promotion to development director, which had been announced on our company website, complete with my photograph. He had no idea about my history, and was simply reaching out to reconnect professionally. But that digital footprint, the first I had allowed in years, created a path. 3 days later, I received the first call from an unknown number. When I answered, there was a moment of silence before I heard her voice. For the first time in 5 years. "Jeremy, please do not hang up." I ended the call immediately, heart racing like I had just sprinted a mile. More calls followed over the next few days, then emails to my work address. I blocked each number, each email, but she would find new ways to reach out. Finally came a physical letter to my office, which my assistant innocently placed on my desk with the rest of the mail. In her letter, Amanda claimed complete transformation. She had gone through therapy, had been single for years, had built a successful career on her own terms. She wrote about the clarity that came from losing everything, about the regret that had shaped her into a better person. She begged for a chance to apologize in person, to find closure, maybe even to explore if any feelings remained. What struck me most was her assertion that our connection had been real, despite her betrayal, that in 5 years no relationship had come close to what we had shared. That she believed we were meant to find our way back to each other. She wrote that she would be in Seattle for a week, and included her hotel information, pleading for just one coffee meeting. I showed the letter to Stephanie, now my girlfriend of 2 years, the woman I was considering proposing to. Her response surprised me. "You should do what brings you peace," she said. "If talking to her would give you closure, I support that. If never seeing her again is better for you, I support that too." Her confidence and trust solidified what I already knew: this was the healthy relationship I deserved. After careful consideration, I decided not to meet Amanda. Instead, I had my lawyer send a brief formal letter. In it, I acknowledged receiving her communication. I stated clearly that while I had healed and moved forward with my life, I had no interest in reconnecting in any capacity. I wished her well, but requested she respect my boundaries and cease all contact attempts. I added that any further communications would result in legal action for harassment. Was it harsh? Perhaps, but it was honest. The truth was, I had forgiven Amanda years ago, not for her sake, but for mine. Forgiveness did not mean reconciliation, or even conversation. It meant releasing the anger that had once threatened to consume me, while still maintaining the boundaries necessary for my well-being. The calls continued for another 2 weeks, then finally stopped. Whether she had accepted my decision or simply given up, I cannot say. What matters is that I remained firm in my choice, protecting the life and relationships I had built. Looking back at the journey from betrayed husband to the man I am today, I see how necessary that complete break had been. Sometimes healing cannot begin until you remove yourself entirely from the source of pain. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away without explanation, without giving someone the chance to pull you back into their chaos. I do not regret ghosting my cheating wife. I do not regret building a wall between my past and present so solid that it took 5 years to find a crack. Some might call it running away, but I see it as running toward something better. Toward self-respect, toward peace, toward the life I deserved all along. The most powerful step in healing from betrayal is not confrontation or closure conversations. It is the moment you decide your well-being matters more than explanations or last words. The moment you choose yourself without apology. Have you ever had to make a clean break from someone who hurt you deeply? Do you think ghosting is ever justified when someone betrays your trust so completely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And if you know someone who might be struggling with similar painful decisions, share this video to let them know they are not alone in having to make difficult choices to protect their heart and future. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away.